Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? I'm a human being, god damn it! My life has value! It's time to ask yourself what you believe.
Mass murder, torture, perjury, embezzlement, fraud, deception, treason. These are just a few of your many crimes against humanity. You will not win this war, for you are fighting the very essence of humanity.
Somebody's going to ask why breast cancer is exploding in the Western world to thousands of percentile points what it was 50 years ago. We're just going to say, well, we're going to start removing women's breasts at puberty. That'll be the new thing. And then pretty soon we won't even be able to live past 5 or 6 without massive medical intervention. And no one will ask, why are we all dying of cancer? Why are we all have autism? Why is everybody getting testicular cancer? Why is everybody getting bone cancer? Gee, it's not the GMO where all the studies say they're doing that. Gee, it's not the hydrofluorosilicic acid in the water. No. It's none of that. Let's just take our young girls in to have their breasts removed. You can't have breasts now. Now enjoy that bisphenol A. And don't put down women. Support them having double mastectomies at age 12. If you don't support double mastectomies, you don't like women.
Hi, welcome to Truth or Talk. I'm April Bowden.
And I'm Virstyne Henry.
Please visit our website at truthertease.com, our store at shop.truthertease.com. Today we're going to be talking to Leslie Carol Botha in the next segment, but for this segment, for our introduction, we wanted to bring in our friend Sarah Sotomayor, our very good friend Sarah Sotomayor, and she's been on the show several times. We talked to her about her experience with the Gardasil vaccine, and we're bringing her back today. You can find more information about Sarah at her blog, Sarah's Healing Journey.
Is it .wordpress.com?
Okay, I'm sorry. I almost said Blogspot, but that's not. She's not on Blogspot. She's on WordPress. So Sarah's Healing Journey .wordpress.com. Please welcome to the show, Sarah Sotomayor. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, guys. Hey, what's going on?
Nothing much. How are you guys?
Great. Good to have you back.
Great. Yeah.
I know it's been too long.
It has been too long.
Yeah, we missed talking to you. So it's really good to have you back on. And we right before the show, we were talking about a couple of things that had been out in the news lately, and we were going to get into that today, like the whole Michael Douglas thing.
Yeah,
Because you were vaccine damaged, and the vaccine that caused the most damage was the HPV vaccine. And so now he's coming out, and he's saying that he gave a woman oral sex, cunnilingus, and that potentially that is one of the causes of his throat cancer.
Potentially. Hard to say with a straight face, huh?
I know, right? I get the words out. I was like, he's saying, because I think he said it, and then he retracted it. He said, no, I never said that. I never said it caused it. But if you go back and read the interview, that's exactly what he said.
And then he said in the same breath that also cures it. He said cunnilingus also cures the ailment. So it's just...
So just keep doing it. You
just
get it
bizarre.
And keep doing it, and then it'll see its way through, basically.
Exactly. It'll come full circle. So it's all done. So it's good. Don't worry about it.
Cunnilingus for everybody.
But Sarah, when we had you on before and you were talking about the HPV vaccine, it doesn't prevent HPV. Do we know that HPV causes cervical cancer?
It does not cause cervical
cancer.
I mean, basically the way that they wanted to pin HPV on this is if you look through the HIV stuff, the way that they brought on that fake virus is kind of the same way they're doing it with HPV. All they did was do a polymerase chain reaction test, a PCR test, magnify it into a microscopic nothing, and find HPV. If you're going to have cancer and it's going to be caused by an HPV virus, which is a wart virus, you're going to find it throughout your entire body. You could just swab it if it's in your mouth if HPV really caused your cancer. It's not. HPV is a wart virus, and it may show up on your genitals or in other places, and it's not going to cause you any harm. And you immediately get rid of that virus because if you have immune system not functioning properly, you'll get rid of it no problem. And recently, I just found on the FBI social network, I was just, looking through vaccines things, and I found this article that says that Gardasil was the first genetically modified virus. I had no idea about this. Nobody tells you this when you first get the vaccine. Gardasil and Cervarix are actually the first genetically modified virus. And what this means is, it means a lot of things, is that not only is it genetically modified, it is also trans-species, because this genetically modified virus was cultured on insect cells infected with recombinant baculovirus, which it just puts you into a really terrible place, because this has a lot of serious implications. This is why a lot of girls are getting seriously sick and staying sick. It shouldn't be this hard to cleanse aluminum out of your system if you have the right things to do so. And I believe that, finding out that this was cultured on an insect explains exactly why I got Lyme. And my mom and I have always said, look, this Lyme came from the vaccine because I had no tick bite. And when I supposedly got Lyme, it was during the winter, and I was already seriously sick, and I wasn't going outside, rolling around in the grass.
In the grass, yeah.
So,
yeah. Sorry, go on.
This has a lot of, serious implications. This means women, we have already seen women becoming sterilized by this, but what does this mean if women go on to have children? Because this virus isn't going to just leave your system, since it's already attached to a metal and it's genetically modified. So what does this mean for women who want to have children, who have gotten this vaccine? What's going to come out? I mean, it's not going to be good. You're going to have to really cleanse yourself and work really hard and really think about making that decision if you want to have a child and endanger them in some way. And this is just another great thing for population control. Cut off the masses. Yeah. And this kind of leads into the Angelina Jolie thing, where she is saying that one microscopic nothing of a gene may cause cancer down the road, which is just absurd, because cancer is multifactorial toxicity that happens over a prolonged period of time.
Right.
Which can be, you can prevent cancer by drinking lemon water, because it has properties to prevent cancer.
Yeah.
So, and then we have the wonderful Michael Douglas talking about his adventures and about cunnilingus, and now he has HPV because of what he's done to women.
His cigar smoking had nothing to do with it, obviously.
And his cigar smoking, his drinking, and the fact that he lived in New York City after 9/11. I mean, cancer rates were extremely high after 9/11.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was most likely caused by his continuous smoking of cigars and alcohol.
Right, or it's multifactorial, as you say, too. So there's many ways that it could have happened. I mean, and he's saying it's because he gives pleasure to women. I think he's just trying to brag. I think he wants to look good. Like, I had all these women. I've seen many, many vaginas in my life. It's almost like I'm an old man now. I'm not really sexy anymore. Like, just remember, I used to be hot. I mean, that's the way. Remember back in the day, I was a hottie and all wanted cunnilingus from me. So I don't know what his deal is, but I'm not sure how much people are buying into that whole aspect. I think more people made fun of him than actually bought into it. But the Angelina Jolie thing, people actually were kind of buying. I mean, if you're awake, you're out there and you're listening and you're thinking more people are waking up. They are, but you forget how many people aren't until something like that happens, and you see all these people come out of the woodwork, like talking about her brave fight.
Oh my God! I want to you see a People magazine, and you see the newspapers, and then people attack you for even questioning her reason to do that.
And you'd be surprised at how many people who are even awake still believe the propaganda from the Western medical model.
Right.
Like, I've seen people who are awake on 9/11 or awake on a lot of issues, but as soon as you touch, Western medicine, watch out. I mean, it's just like a serious visceral reaction.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely unwarranted and ridiculous to think that somewhere down the line, with this specific gene, you might get cancer, which, by the way, your genes change with your environment every second of every day. So why don't we look at chemtrails or the genetically modified food or the fluoridated water or the vaccines or the pharmaceutical industry and, there's nuclear waste being dumped into the ocean.
Or the EMS.
How about we look at that?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Or the EMS that we were talking.
Yeah, talked about that earlier.
We were talking. Virstyne and I were talking at the beginning of the show about the EMS because this is actually disrupting our mitochondrial, our energy that is within our cells, and so you can imagine if that starts to become, the frequencies start to get messed up, and that's not working properly, then what will happen is that even you're getting attacked with these chemtrails, you're getting attacked with these vaccines. You can't remove it from the body. It's like it's just you're stuck. It's stuck in there, exactly. And then because you can't get your mitochondria, you can't get these cells to be functioning properly, so your immune system is just not able to detoxify at all, and it just keeps going back into the system. And so in what you're describing, because I think we need to really emphasize how weird this Gardasil thing is, but what you're describing is that this was the first genetically engineered virus. They put it in a vaccine. When we had Leslie, because Leslie's going to be on our show today, but when we had her on in the past, she said that they actually Merck received an award for creating a market out of thin air with this vaccine. They actually received an award for it because they knew it was a vaccine for something that didn't even matter. And you're saying that it's genetically engineered. So if you guys think it's bad to eat GMOs, think about the fact that this is being genetically engineered off of an insect and then injected into young women and now young boys. It's just gross. It's like
now and the vaccine's even worse because it's bypassing your skin, your saliva, your mucus, your natural defenses, and it's just entering your bloodstream. And I mean, I've been working at this for almost 7 years. I mean, I've been detoxing on a daily basis for 6 years, and it's still in my body. Like, I finally feel that I've reached the point where I've cleansed the Lyme. I'm not autoimmune. I feel like I've cleansed a lot of the drugs, but yet I'm still having a really screwed up inflammatory process. I still can't eat. I'm still having really serious sensitivities to food. Things that just shouldn't be occurring anymore.
Right.
And it's because this is genetically modified virus. It's trans-species, and also not only is it human strains of papillomavirus that are in the vaccine, there's animal strains of papillomavirus in the vaccine. So what does that mean? I mean, I've already done a Gardasil nosode, which is a homeopathic nosode of basically it just being the energy imprint of Gardasil, and I didn't take it. I didn't take it internally. I had them do Rife frequencies, put the bottle of the nosode, attach it to the head of the laser, and then just laser it in on my body because there was no way I was going to let that into my system, even if it's a homeopathic. And it worked. It really did work in the beginning, but I just, it just still feels like there's that virus particle attached to my system the way that my body is still reacting. It just shouldn't be left in my system anymore. But it is.
What do you think happens? Do you think the recombinant DNA is injected into the body and then your body thinks that it's part of its body and like combines with the DNA, or does it just like...
I think what can happen is either because it's attached to the aluminum adjuvant, it stays in the blood longer, so it can either attach to your DNA and just kind of enfold in with your DNA so it makes it even more difficult to get out, or the DNA is just messing up with the signaling of your own DNA because it's still circulating in your bloodstream. And what I feel like happened to me is it's screwing with my mitochondria right now because I'm having a really hard time gaining muscle mass, being able to regain flexibility, and, I'm dealing with, contractures, and, those are really painful to deal with. And, so now we have to not only come at this with physical therapy, but we have to figure out how to get this out. And, I kind of want to start with what they said in this article is that these VLPs, which are virus-like particles, which were reproduced in large quantities on the insect cell, and it was also, the insect cell was infected with recombinant baculovirus. So I kind of want to research this baculovirus because what it feels like to me is it feels viral because, I mean, I've dealt with bacteria and parasites, and it just feels more viral to me. But, I mean, what does this mean for other girls? I mean, there's girls who are still in the Western medical model. They're not into alternative therapies. They haven't changed their diets. They're not able to detox. And, I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones. I got one vaccine. I haven't met one or seen one story where there's one girl who had one vaccine and ended up the way I did. The ones who have 2 vaccines or the 3 vaccines of Gardasil, they're not mentally stable anymore. They almost become autistic. They start to have mental disabilities.
Right.
And then they're not able to function, strokes, heart attacks. I mean, things that just are out of whack. And, you know, girls who get 2 vaccines, there was one girl who either had 2 or 3 and was found dead in her shower, and she was completely black and blue. And when you find somebody black and blue, that's the sign of poisoning.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my God.
This has a lot of serious implications that we have no idea what it's going to, the way it'll affect the way, you know, what happens when somebody who's had this vaccine ends up getting pregnant. What's going to come out? Is that genetically modified virus going to be passed on to that child? And then what's going to happen?
So I have a question. So you're saying that the recombinant DNA messes with the mitochondria in your cells?
Yeah, but you have like over 10,000 pieces of DNA within a mitochondria cell.
Oh, no, totally. But what I want to ask is does the virus replicate or multiply, or is it just dead and circulating throughout the body?
It's hard to say because what they're saying.
You know that for sure?
I'm not sure because what they're saying in this article is that it's not. What they've normally done with vaccines is they've attenuated it so they weaken the virus. But now it's almost like this is like a super virus that's been genetically modified. So does it replicate in the body? Or, you know, does it enter each cell and cause mass disruption within the body? I feel like that's happened to a lot of the girls who immediately passed away. I feel like it just started to replicate within their system. I feel like it's not replicating in my system, but I still have to almost, you know, kill it, you know, get it to cleanse out of my system, bind it out, release it out of my tissues, because that seems to be where it's hiding. It seems to be hiding in my tissues and hiding in my liver.
And there have been no known studies on the effects that on the recombinant DNA that they put in the vaccines and what it does to them. I mean, not that there really hasn't been any studies on the.
There's no new studies. So basically, in the true sense, all these women and girls, we were all guinea pigs, just to see how this was going to go down.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's just not one thing. It's not just genetically modified. It's not just metals. It's not just that it's trans species. It's a bunch of other things. And I find that when girls who enter the medical community and get on the medical treadmill, it ends up being worse, and it ends up being a lot harder to get out of. It ends up, you know, a lot harder to detox out of your system because, I mean, I've been detoxing for 6 years, and now I finally feel that I got rid of all the drugs, like the chemo, the tramadol, the Remicade, all of that toxic stuff. Now it just feels like I'm back at the beginning of the illness. But, you know, now it's like, okay, well, now where do we go?
Right, yeah. Well, this is the hardest thing because there aren't any studies at all on this in any way, shape, or form. We really don't know what we're dealing with this recombinant DNA and these genetically engineered viruses and all this weird stuff. And the foreign DNA in animal tissues and all these things being injected into the blood. It's a really like creepy thing, and a lot of what you're describing. I mean, we've been dealing with my son Aiden, trying to get, and it's the same kind of thing. It's like you're doing all this stuff and you're working and you're getting a little bit better, but it just won't go away. It just like won't yield. We cannot just get the gut completely back in where it's supposed to be. You know, it's like, then you fix one problem and then you go, right, now we're dealing with some different allergies that weren't there before. Okay, great. Now we're dealing with this, and it's like never ending, and you just don't know when it will end. And I mean, I feel
And what makes it even harder is that, there are these other outside factors, these chemtrails, the fluoride, the genetically modified food. It makes it even harder. Like, I can't eat anything that's not organic, or I have a serious inflammatory response, and I feel sick, and I hurt everywhere, and I have extreme nerve pain. And, those things just shouldn't be happening anymore after this period of time. So that means, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? Because we've literally, we've done a lot of treatment over 6 years and a lot of different things. So where do you go next? And then the fact that it's not research makes it even harder. But, this is the first I've seen this article, and it was from Europe, actually. This article was on a Europe site. And, this is the first I've heard that it's been genetically modified. And Cervarix is genetically modified virus as well. It's not just Gardasil. So you see a lot of girls, developing the same sort of things with Gardasil and with Cervarix.
Yeah, right. We're seeing the same things, and what you were saying about these girls that are like dying on the spot. It just as you're talking about that, it's kind of making me wonder, because we're seeing so many of these people, girls that will die after they get it, but they don't die immediately. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering how many are actually dying. And what is the actual number when we're talking about the deaths from Gardasil? Do we really even know that, or is it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They've said that even in SaneVax that it's only 10% of the population that's reporting, and that's just in the U.S. That's just the U.S. So that's
the VAERS reporting system isn't really very good, because they really try to steer you away from actually getting into it. And a lot of people will start the process and not complete it because it's a long, arduous process, and it's a lot of invasive, intrusive questions. And so you might go, I don't want to do this, and just walk away. So even that isn't really very accurate. So we don't really even know how many people are getting hurt from this. We don't really even know, and we certainly, but getting back to the whole Angelina Jolie thing, here's where it gets really weird, and it ties back into this Gardasil thing, is that how many people will sit there and give you a hard time and go, yeah, but I'm protecting myself from cancer. And because they're saying that about Angelina. Now she had an 85% chance. Now it's only a 5% chance. Isn't that
But there's still a chance. And then she can get it. I'm sorry, go on.
But then they're saying that about HPV, too. Like, they're saying the HPV vaccine, people are still buying into that. It's actually going to prevent them from having cancer. People still don't realize that that's not even what it's supposed to do. It wasn't even made to do that.
And now it's an STD. Now it's touted as, prevent this HPV STD. So is it cancer? Is it an STD? What is it? It's nothing. It's fake. This is called money. This is called greed. This is the most expensive vaccine on the market. Mm. And they're targeting, girls at the age of when they're going to start puberty. This is when they're going to start, developing. And what does that mean for when, reproducing-wise? A lot of girls are going to become sterile, and, it's probably not going to be great if you want to have a child either. So this is just another great thing for population control. It's just like that message that Liam Sheff was talking about, just kill yourselves because, don't have sex, don't, do anything because you're all going to die, and we all want you to die. Mm-hmm. That's as basic as it can be, and it just seems, I don't know, it just seems like the weirdest thing that this is the first genetically modified virus, and that that's still being allowed to happen, and then more girls are still getting it, and they're still pushing it. We just heard from a friend that they just tried to push it on their 2 daughters, and they already have bleeding disorders, and Gardasil and Cervarix also cause bleeding disorders, and it was their gynecologist. They were saying, you need to get this vaccine. And he even took my mom's friend's daughter into another room to interrogate her. This is still happening. This is like Alice in Wonderland. Like, everything is just backwards.
How is it? What was he interrogating her about?
And he kept trying to get her to get the vaccine. And, of course, she already, her mom already knows about me. And her and my mom are friends. So she's like, I'm not giving her the vaccine. I'm not giving both of my daughters the vaccine. And then he took the eldest daughter into another room to interrogate her to get the vaccine even further for a half an hour. And she finally came in to check on her, and he was still interrogating her. And she refused. She kept refusing. And then, she finally said, we're never going to that doctor ever again.
Wow. Yeah, it's really creepy. I mean, it's like you're talking about the whole eugenics thing. I think about the Nazis, like the Operation Paperclip, or wasn't that what it was called? And then they had, it was basically like they were just kind of throwing things out there. I mean, we all think that the Nazis really, really hated the Jews, but in a lot of ways, I mean, they didn't particularly like them, but they really just wanted to use them to see they were trying to test out Darwinism. They wanted to see, well, let's see if we can actually manufacture Darwinism and, like, throw some chemicals at them, and we'll see who survives and who doesn't. We'll just kind of check it out, and then we can create a race of people. Whoever survives, those people are the strong ones, and then the other ones are the weak ones. So it's almost like they're trying to test it out, see who's going to survive and who's not going to survive, and in a sense, but the thing where we're at now is that everybody's sick. It's like, it's not even just, some people have this and some people have, everybody's got something wrong with them.
Right.
And cancer, I mean, when you talk about, with Michael Douglas and Angelina Jolie, all cancers are on the rise. And they're trying to blame it on this virus that, this HPV virus that affects, like, over 50% of the population at one time or another has it. Or 50% of the population currently have it. It could be even more at any given time. And because it clears so easily that we really don't even, it's hard to keep track of how many people actually have it and who doesn't. And so, and then they're saying, and it lays dormant in your body for 20 years and then it gives you cancer 20 years later. I mean, isn't that a load of BS? Like, how about we look at Gene Simmons compared to Michael Douglas? Gene Simmons hasn't had a drink in his life, hasn't smoked, and how many women has he slept with? And, done cunnilingus on, over 1,000, and he's still kicking, and he doesn't have cancer. All right, exactly.
Or 12-15. I mean, he's smoking. He doesn't have throat cancer, but I mean, God, he's going to probably end up near that,
Yeah.
I mean, he's not looked too good, but I mean, he's probably seen a lot of women, and he doesn't have throat cancer.
Yeah, there's a number of people that don't, and it's just silly. It's ridiculous. But even to implicate it at all, because then there was this doctor in one of the articles. This expert doctor said that, well, about 1% of the population. He said it's very rare. It's less than 1% actually get throat cancer from HPV. But even less than 1%, I don't buy that, because how do they know that was the primary causing factor if it happens 20 years after they had contracted HPV? It's like, what else did they do in that 20-year time span? And even if they lived a very healthy lifestyle, you have so many environmental factors that you have a Wi-Fi, you have the chemtrails, you have all of these things going on all the time, pollution, GMOs, so many things you're coming into contact with. How do you know for sure that it was this benign virus that you had 20 years ago that gave you genital warts? Give me a break.
And how do you know you didn't already clear it either?
Exactly. You probably did. That's the thing. Do you have warts now? No. Then you know what? It's gone. You don't have it anymore. And so it's like you cleared it because they presented, and that means, in the homeopathic world, you like things that present because then that means you're clearing it. And they see something that means it's better to be out than in, so you want it to be, to come out and then just be done with it, and that way it's not, laying dormant somewhere in your body. And that's one of the things that homeopathy does, is it tries to get it out so that your body expresses it, and then you're done with it. So, it's just silliness. They're grasping at straws, and they're total, it's medical insanity, and I think it's very barbaric. I think we're in a really dark time of medical history as far as the mainstream goes, but, it's just cut, poison, burn, just like the movies. Cut everything. But it's not just the cancer industry, although that's really, really, vile. But it's everything around it. So, anyway, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up the intro and take a short break and get back. We're going to be talking to Leslie Carol Botha. She's really cool. We love having her on. She's coming back on our show. So we want to thank you, Sarah, so much for being on, coming in and talking to us about this. You have such a great insight on all of this, and it's such a pleasure always. You're
Thank
such
you
a good
so
friend.
much. Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
We can't agree more, or I can't agree more.
Yeah, we just
said.
I love you guys, too.
Yeah, we just love you. We adore you, and we're so glad that you've come into our lives. So before we go, tell us where your blog is again.
My blog is sarahshealingjourney.wordpress.com.
Okay, so everybody check out Sarah's blog, and we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we'll be talking to Leslie Carol Botha. All right. Having a child with food sensitivities and allergies can make it a difficult task of finding the right food to eat. My son's severe dairy allergy has made him unable to eat even butter, which is why I buy the best, high-quality ghee from Pure Indian Foods.
Pure Indian Foods is a family-owned company spanning back 5 generations. Pure Indian Foods continues to make ghee the old-fashioned way in small batches with stainless steel equipment. This ghee is derived from non-homogenized milk from 100% organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised cows, always served in glass bottles, never plastic, so there's no risk of BPA poisoning.
Pure Indian Foods has decided to keep their company small so as to maintain the tradition of high-quality products ranging from healthy and delicious Indian spices,
Ayurvedic medicinal teas, and of course their delicious ghees, which come in a variety of spice flavors, like the new digestive ghee for better digestive health.
and my personal favorite, their cultured ghee, is as delicious as it is good for you. Even my son with severe allergies can eat it, and he loves the taste. Be sure to check out Pure Indian Foods at pureindianfoods.com, the best little online store for tasty, healthy living.
That's pureindianfoods.com.
I was on holiday with Sir Laurence Olivier. We had decided that 9/11 was an intelligence operation. We'd all known about JFK, had so many mistresses. The CIA shot him. Castro could never have done it. It was clear. We had become realists, conspiracy realists. How would we let everyone know was the question. We decided to buy T-shirts that told the contents of our hearts and minds to the world. We went to shop.truthertees.com. Even though the internet hadn't been invented at the time, we went to shop.truthertees.com. There we purchased Conspiracy Realist T-shirts, one of a kind, sold only at shop.truthertees.com. 100% cotton in men's and women's fitted sizes. I won't tell you which one I'm wearing.
Leslie Carol Botha. I'm one of the 6 women who presented our research and data to the FDA on March 12th. We are a group of 6 women, including a mother whose daughter died after receiving the Gardasil vaccine, another whose daughter suffered adverse reactions. I have to say, none of us have ever met. We have conference called. We email daily. We have become a very tight group of women. In the last 3 to 4 years, we have offered our time to research, educate, and communicate the potential dangers of the HPV vaccines. You can read all of this. I will tell you that the script, the handouts that we refer to in this presentation, and the PowerPoint presentation are found on the Truth About Gardasil website. That's truthaboutgardasil.org under FDA webinar documents. We have a lot to cover here. I will tell you, we don't know what will happen with the FDA. This was a listening session. We do know that our research, our 250 pages of documents, PowerPoint, and our script were passed around to all the departments at the FDA. They're available through the Freedom of Information Act. We've had the FDA, U.S. Congress, Health and Human Services Secretary Office on our website, as well as lots of different countries, lots of hits from institutions and governments on the Truth About Gardasil website. We speak on behalf of families around the world to bring justice to the thousands of adversely injured girls and the estimated hundreds of girls who have died from Gardasil and Cervarix. We are Karen Maynor from New Mexico, Rosemary Mathis, North Carolina, Frida Burrell from Scotland and the United Kingdom, Janny Stokvis from the Netherlands, Cynthia Janik from Illinois, and myself from Colorado. There are thousands of concerned parents with tens of thousands of questions. 7 are addressed in this presentation and are substantiated with research and data. 1, my daughter is now sick after the HPV vaccination, has warts on her hands and feet. Is HPV really only an STD? 2, my daughter has received an irregular Pap test 2 years after the vaccinations. I thought the vaccine was supposed to prevent this. 3, why is my daughter so ill now when she was always so healthy before the vaccination? 4, after reporting my daughter's reactions to VAERS, I became curious to see how many other girls are like my daughter. There are so many. I am now afraid my daughter will not get better. To date, and I'm going to interject here, there are now close to 18,000 adverse reactions on the VAERS reports, 64 deaths on the VAERS reports. We're still estimating that only 1 to 10% are reporting. We are getting more reports coming in around the world on a daily basis. Number 5, I am 18 and my friends and I got the shots. Why did I get an immune disorder and they did not? 6, how does the side effects my daughter is experiencing compare with other children? And 7, why did my daughter die? The international story, spreadsheet, and graphics and graphs that have been prepared represent a sample of the injuries occurring to adolescent girls globally. When reading the many reports of girls adversely affected, it becomes quickly evident that the symptoms they are experiencing are part of a pattern of events that are similar wherever the HPV vaccines are administered around the world. What this means is, people, there's no such thing as coincidence here. We are documenting patterns of events no matter where this vaccine is being administered. We are now back at work, all of us, especially Cynthia Janik and Jani Stokvis, combing through these 18,000 reports and categorizing these patterns of events. The handouts, and in particular the graphs, demonstrate these very points. The graphs, a lot of them are in the documents that we refer to and can be found on truthaboutgardasil.org. Gardasil and Cervarix synopsis. Cervarix. Cervarix is intended for the vaccination of girls and women 10 to 25 years of age for the prevention of the following diseases caused by HPV types 16 and 18, including cervical cancer, CIN grade 2 or worse, or CIN grade 1. Biological changes in the cervix around the time of puberty render young girls particularly susceptible to HPV infection. This period coincides with the initiation of sexual activity, which is considered to be an important factor in the acquisition of oncogenic HPV infection. So we're going to get to number 1. My daughter is now sick after the HPV vaccination, has warts on her hands and feet. Is HPV really only an STD? We've got studies here regarding HPV contact. This is one of the great myths, and that is HPV is only sexually transmitted. This is not true. HPV virus can be transmitted vertically, and it can be transmitted in utero. It can be transmitted hand-to-hand contact under the nails. So what we have here is a problem with girls that may be exposed to HPV even before they are sexually active. And the research that was carried out in this paper submitted to the FDA was on young women who tested positive for the HPV strain 16 or 18. And the facts speak for themselves. The table indicates that the efficacy of Gardasil after vaccinating infected young women dropped to a staggering minus 44.6%. This not only left these women completely vulnerable and without any protection, but has also put them, in our opinion, at greater risk of getting HPV CIN3 lesions in later life. Using only the Gardasil group, this breaks down to 20 out of every 100 women will have CIN23 or worse. The risk of introducing a vaccine concurrently with an infection is unfortunately the trigger to more serious problems in the future. And I've jumped ahead here. Let's see how far I have jumped ahead. Let's see where we are. Okay, so here we have Table 17, study applicants' analysis of efficacy against vaccine-relevant HPV type CIN or worse among subjects who were PCR positive and seropositive for relevant HPV types at day 1. And this is from a study that has been cited here, and you can all see this. And you see in that very right-hand column, the second to the right-hand column, that there is a minus 44.6% efficacy rate, and that's what we were referring to in this. That means that girls already exposed to the vaccine, already exposed to the virus, and who already have the vaccine have a negative 44.6% chance or 44.6% chance greater risk of getting cervical cancer. Now, as you can see in this next slide, there we go, that the participants that were both PCR positive and seropositive for the HPV types in the vaccine have a 33.7% greater chance in the same column, and now we're talking about cervix here, in the same column, and a greater chance of cervical cancer. There is no reason to believe that this will not, well, this is also Gardasil, excuse me. There is no reason to believe that this will not also apply to cervix. The small print on the GlaxoSmithKline cervix product insert states, cervix does not prevent HPV-related lesions in women infected with HPV 16 or HPV 18 at the time of vaccination and has not been shown to have a therapeutic effect. The statement cannot be much clearer. The above data shows that cervix has a negative efficacy similar to Gardasil. If a participant was DNA positive and seropositive, they are 32.5% more likely to acquire cervical lesions, in our opinion. They even state that the vaccine did not show a therapeutic effect in subjects HPV DNA positive. So our conclusions here, evidence detailed regarding the poor efficacy of both Gardasil and cervix on already infected women has to be investigated further. In fact, the National Vaccine Information Center has posted on their Med Alerts page 272 cases of abnormal pap smears reported to theirs up to 2 years post-vaccine. That is a huge concern. And again, with only 1 to 10% reporting, those numbers could be astronomical. One of the things that we are concerned with, and I'm jumping to this screen, does HPV...
Welcome back to Truth or Talk. On today's show, we will be bringing back our friend Leslie Carabotha. Leslie is a women's health educator, a publisher, author, and broadcast journalist. She is an intentionally recognized expert on women's hormonal health, as well as a social and political activist. She is a member of truthaboutgardasil.org and is one of 6 women who presented research and data to the FDA in March of 2010 on the alarming statistics of Gardasil and the cervix deaths, injuries, and harm in comparison to other vaccines. She runs a local radio show, Holy Hormones Honey, the greatest story ever told, on KRFC-FM 88.9 in Fort Collins, Colorado. Her latest book is entitled Understanding Your Mind, Mood, and Hormone Cycle, now available on Amazon. And you can also find her work at holyhormones.com. Please welcome to the show Leslie Carabotha. Hello, Leslie. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. And how are you all doing?
Good. Great. So good to have you back. We loved you the last time, and then we felt like there was so much more to talk about, so we were all excited to get you back on.
Well, thank you. Yeah, there is a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on in the world of women's health. There is no doubt about that, and we need to really be social, politically aware of what is happening. And so if I can shed some light on that, and I know you want to cover a lot of other ground, and so let's just share information.
Let's get started.
All right. So, you know, I listened to an interview of yours a while ago, and I remember you quoting this Native American proverb it goes something like, a nation is not defeated until the hearts of its women are on the ground. And that just really, ripped through my soul because I see a lot happening with women in society, and I was just wondering, you know, from your research and your experience, how can you relate that to what's going on with women in society today?
Wow, that's powerful. Where do I start? Well, and that is a very powerful proverb, and I use it all the time, and I invite you to use it all the time because people, and especially women and men, need to know that. And we are coming to a place where women's hearts are on the ground. And we are being so drugged, so steroidized, let me put it that way, with synthetic hormones, that and now we're lobbing off our body parts, and they're taking our uterus out, and they're taking our breasts off our body. Anything that's feminine is gone from us. And you need to look at the picture and say, what is going on? But I see this as a result of the skew in between genders. And all a part of how women are viewed in society. And I have a blog post up about it that I found earlier this week, and let me see if I can't find that right now. It's sex, reproduction, contraception, abortion is all about how society views women. We need to step back. I mean, really step back and start looking at what is going on, starting with our young girls and lasting all the way through these man-made diseases, through menstruation, the medicalization of menstruation and menopause. And that is what my book is all about, understanding your mind, mood, and hormone cycle. This has all the information that a woman needs to know about the importance of endocrine system functioning, how your hormones affect your behaviors, the predictability of that, so that you can stop being controlled and you can start trusting yourself.
That's a really powerful statement. Right before the show started, we were talking, and you said that you were going to be at a conference in New York, and you're going to be selling your book, and we kind of started talking about how the feminist movement has gotten a lot of this stuff wrong about, how to, and you mentioned a few of those things, like, I guess, like, when you were talking about, like, the HPV vaccine, a lot of times we see they're saying, oh, well, women are empowered, they can have sex without consequence, but that's not true at all. And a lot of these, and the pill kind of had that connotation as well, like, oh, you can have sex and you won't get pregnant unless you want to, and all of that, but none of that is actually correct. And so, talk a little bit about that. Like, how do you think that the feminist movement has been sort of a disappointment in that way, or maybe they haven't gone far enough?
I don't see it as a disappointment. And the feminist movement has done a lot of great things, and I am a feminist. What we are seeing is the emergence of woman. We are on a journey together. And what the early feminists did, and Gloria Steinem is going to be at this conference, and I'll tell you more about it in just a moment. What the early feminists did is break down barriers so that, we have had to fight for every single human right there is. We've had to fight to own property. We've had to fight to have the right to have an education. We had to fight. We were jailed. We were starved. We were beaten to get the right to vote in this country.
Right.
And that's something that's not taught. And unless you have a sense of women's history, you won't understand the struggle. So what the early feminists did was to establish a foundation for women's voices to be heard. Were they 100% on the money? No, but the thinking was, we want equality.
Right.
We still don't have equality, but we want equality in the office. We want equality getting the same paycheck. That hasn't happened. We want equal respect. We want everything that men have. And why shouldn't we have it? All right? Yes, we sacrificed a lot for that type of thinking, but now let's move on to the next phase of feminism, and that is, no, we don't want to be like men.
Right.
We want to be empowered women.
Right, and we don't want to take these drugs, that are hurting our health like they are.
Right.
But
here's the other thing, is that we had to fight for the right to control when we were going to have a baby. We had to fight for the right to have an abortion if we got raped, or if we didn't want to have a baby, or if we were forced to have sex, or the birth control didn't work, because there isn't a method of birth control that's 100% effective, all right? So now we've been synthesized, we've been drugged, we've been steroidized, we've been vaccinated, and it's time to wake up and say, we're losing our identity as women over all of this. And really, what is it that makes women women? It's their menstrual cycle. And it's understanding the power that comes from living with cycles. That is what we need to be embodying in the next phase of feminism. So, yeah, I sat in the back of the room for a long time raising my hand going, I don't think so. I don't think so. And now it's time to take front and center stage and say, hell no.
Right.
Hell no.
Yeah. I want to say since your research has focused a lot on the female menstrual cycle, I also heard you say in another interview that I heard that, wouldn't it be glorious if every woman on the planet were on their menstrual cycles at the same time? And I'm just thinking, given, the negative connotation that menstrual cycles are given in society, can you explain, and I trust you, I'm not being sarcastic, but in my mind, because I am not really educated about the menstrual cycle, but can you explain why the idea of women menstruating at the same time wouldn't scare the hell out of some people?
Yeah, like men.
Yeah, but I mean, even with me, I don't want to go too much about it on air, but I've had issues with that, and for me, it hasn't been a very positive.
Right, you've had
personally with not necessarily other people, but I'll tell you some stuff off the interview.
Sure.
But it's for me, it's not a positive. It hasn't been a positive experience, and I'm looking for some way, to empower myself through this. And when you said that, it was like, whoa! It's for me. I was like, whoa, that seems like it could be pretty terrifying if that were to happen.
Well, you need to get my book. I
will.
I will. Because it's not just, this is hardly a textbook. This is more like a workbook. But what we do is we explain the brain endocrine system connection, the NEI super system, neurological endocrine immune system. The brain is the largest endocrine gland in the body. The brain is where hormone function starts. The reason that you're having, and every woman out there, I can't even go out and socialize with people anymore without women telling me what's going on with them. And I love sharing the information that I have, but it's not just you, hon. It's everybody is having problems with their menstrual cycle. Why? Because we're endocrinally whacked out. And it's happening at a younger and younger age. It used to happen when women entered menopause. They were so nutritionally depleted and hormonally whacked out. But now, because of all the estrogen mimickers in our environment and the lack of nutrients in our food, and now generations growing up without any nutrients at all of our body processes, even having a bowel movement, have become unpleasant for a lot of people. It's not just the menstrual cycle. It's because our bodies are failing us. And our bodies are failing us because of two things. One, we're undernutrited, and number two, and this is the most important piece, this is the missing link in health, it's just starting to come out, is that we are living outside of circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms rule. Every cell in our body lives with circadian rhythms. The menstrual cycle was, and I'm going to get finally to everyone menstruating, the menstrual cycle was revered, and we have this in the book, was revered as a natural cycle because it was a something physical that women could track and start tracking cycles. And we have pictures in the book of archives of antler bones in rocks where women were tracking their menstrual cycle with the lunar cycle 250,000 BC. Women were the first economists. They were the first agriculturalists. They were the first mathematicians. They were the first healers because they understood cycles. They became shamans. They became priestesses. They became goddesses because they understood cycles. And our whole universe dances to the dance of the circadian rhythm, to the lunar rhythm. Every cell in our body does. And when we don't honor that, and when we don't live with cycles, we become disconnected. We become sick, diseased, imbalanced. And that's what's happening. We've all been brought up in this testosterone-filled society that's minute after minute, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month, and we retire and we have a heart attack and die because it's an artificial cycle. Now, there's still a few countries left in the world who operate off the lunar calendar. Lunar calendar is start each month with the new moon. That's what the lunar calendar was. The whole world operated off lunar calendars until sometime in the industrial age, and not that long ago, when we came up with this false sense of time. That has nothing to do with the moons, and you can hardly find any calendars anymore that have moon phases on them. They're totally eliminating that. Yet ranchers are very much aware. Breeders are very much aware. People who are making money in the stock market and the Rothschilds are very much aware of cycles and the importance of cycles and watching the cyclical nature. People who are in the know about the weather, knowing that and understand that the intense weather patterns that we're seeing now are the same intense weather similar to the weather patterns that were happening 100 years ago.
So, Leslie, how does that, when you're talking about the lunar cycle, so why are our menstrual cycles timed by the moon? Like, how does that work?
Well, that's when all women menstruated together. Because there weren't fluorescent lights, and we weren't boxed in concrete rooms, right? We lived out under the moon in simple huts, and when the moonlight is strong. I mean, come on, people, this isn't crazy. There's stats and data that show that the emergency rooms and jails fill up during the full moon. That's been established a long time ago because of the chaotic energy and people not understanding what's going on. So in my book, and which got me going on all of this, is years ago when I started putting this together, I called it Female Mystique, the 3 Phases of Eve, and it's on my website as well, is that I realized that there's a triphasic aspect of being a woman. And triphasic is a very sacred term and symbolic, and there are lots of triphasic symbols and architecture. And, of course, you have the holy deity as the Father, Son, Holy Ghost is triphasic, okay? And 3 aspects of the self. Well, I put that together for women. So we're maidens, mothers, and wise women. Only what I have put together is that we are maidens, mothers, and wise women every single month that we live, not just in our lifetime. So there are 3 phases to the moon cycle: new moon, full moon, and the waning moon. Okay?
Yeah.
There are 3 phases to who we are as women: maiden, mother, wise woman. There are 3 phases to the menstrual cycle: pre-ovulatory, ovulatory, and post-ovulatory. If you can imagine and think of the attributes given to the new moon to being a hormonal honey or an adolescent maiden, and to the pre-ovulatory phase of the menstrual cycle, you will see that all of those behavioral, mental, emotional, physical attributes line up. What does that mean? When the new moon comes into the sky, its energy has been low. And when the new moon, when that sliver shows up in the sky and the moon gets fuller and fuller, the collective universal energy rises. And you need to make note of this. This is really important. You need to make note of this in your own life. So when a hormonal honey, an adolescent, what is she doing? Her energy is rising. She's out there. She's independent, assertive, and social, and just like go get 'em, and the world is hers. And think of how you feel right after you get your period when your hormones levels start rising again. How do you feel? Wow, refreshed. Let's go get 'em. Independent, social, hormones are rising.
If you're in balance, you're saying if you're in balance.
You can.
If you're not in balance, you feel the opposite. Would you say? You feel kind of like not empowered or depressed.
Being aware of it is part of it. The rest is lack of nutrition. We can talk about that. So full moon, then everyone's energetic, right? Mother, we go from independent, assertive, and outgoing to mothering, and we may nurture plants, animals, businesses, family, children, whatever. And then in that 3rd phase, when the energy starts slipping away with the waning moon, and as our hormone levels decrease, and our immune system becomes more compromised, we slow down. And it is not like falling into the rabbit hole. It is, and it has become that way, and we'll go back to that. It is like a deep inner reflection. I read this a long time ago in a book on magic, that women were known to be the most psychic, intuitive, and spiritual during the paramenstruum. Wow, that's the part of the phase, the premenstrual phase, that scares the bejesus out of us, and we go running off to the doctor, and we fall into the, well, take 2 Valium and go home, honey, syndrome. And we get put on drugs. So what happened to this beautiful waning moon, hormone levels dropping, so that we can rest, reflect, and re-energize to start a new cycle? Well, it's like falling off a 40-foot cliff onto jagged rocks, right? Yeah. Isn't that what you were talking about, your menstrual period being such a negative experience?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Physically and mentally for me. Well, and I've been working with it, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your endocrine gland, your brain, needs to get minerals, nutrients. That's where hormone functioning starts. You can, the doctors will put you on synthetic hormones. Oh, we'll regulate your menstrual cycle. Oh, it's a bunch of nonsense. You don't have a period when you're on birth control pills. It's a chemical bleed. It's a chemical bleed.
Yeah.
So throw that away and start nutrating your brain so that your neuroendocrine immune system can get balanced. That's the direction that we need to go. Bioidentical hormones will help for a while. Natural progesterone cream will help for a while to help you over that hump. But the healing takes place in the brain. And when the brain is healed, then the rest of the systems in the body will fall into balance. 2 things about the brain. The brain never ages, and the brain can heal itself given the right care and feeding of the brain.
Okay.
So, let's go back to my comment about wouldn't it be great if all women menstruated at the same time. It would make it easier on the guys. They'd all leave for a week, right? Right. About a quarter, so you have to look at it this way. 25% of the population menstruates every single week. Of the women's population menstruates every single week, right? Yeah. So guys are around premenstrual women all the time, whether they're aware of it or not. And most of them are pretty darn aware of it by this time. So what I'm saying is, if women all menstruated at the same time, and if we understood this concept of the female mystique, the 3 phases of Eve, and if we lived with that menstrual energy, that rise in our hormones, knowing that we're going to peak and move mountains and accomplish great things with ovulation, and then the gentle, slowing retreat into ourselves and reflection of saying, all right, what did I just accomplish in this past cycle? What is it that I want to accomplish in the next cycle? And we move into the next cycle, and we start moving mountains and making those changes. And if we did that collectively, oh, man, the whole world would change. And it would be a simple change, and it would be a forceful and effective change. But what has happened is that they've slain us. Slain us.
And that's why the women
menstruate, right? Yeah. You don't need it. You don't need to menstruate.
So, and then that goes even back to the other proverb that I open with, but the why a country is defeated when the hearts of the women are on the ground, because
exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, fascinating.
That's exactly right. Same way with women in menopause. If women in menopause, and this whole female mystique thing, this maiden mother crone, happens every single month of the menstrual cycle, but it also happens once we transition into menopause. And that's every month. We become maiden mother crone. Right now, it is the waning moon. The new moon is, let me look at my little calendar, one of the only ones left with a new moon on it, and the last moon is the new moon, the new moon is on the 8th. Today, oh, this is July. Never mind. All right. The new moon is, it is. The new moon is on the 8th. It's on Saturday the 8th.
Okay.
So what does that mean? That means collective universal energy is slowing down. You're going to see a drop in business. You're going to see a drop in emails. You're going to hear a lot more from people about how tired they are. I'm saying this in the next week. This is what you're going to hear. And I just shake my head and go, yep, it's the waning moon. We're all in this together. And so the new moon is on the 8th, so this is really beautiful. You know, the darkest day of our menstrual cycle really is the first day that we bleed, all right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the new moon. There's no moon in the sky. The lowest point of our menstrual cycle is the first day that we bleed, so that's really similar. And then 3 or 4 days after we get our periods, then our hormones start rising. Well, it's the same thing with the moon. 3 or 4 days into the new moon cycle, you're going to see the little sliver of the moon. I mean, how beautiful is that? And women understood that years ago, and that's why women were revered as goddesses. They were menstruating at the same time. They were using their menstrual energy aligned with the lunar energy. What could be any more powerful than that? They were using their body rhythm in conjunction with the lunar rhythm. And that's what gave women power. And that's what my book is all about, is helping women understand that, to live with the cycles of their lives again.
Wow. You know, Leslie, you're making me think about, like, all of this, I don't know, it reminds me of sort of like frequencies or things kind of going in flow. And we were just, Virstyne and I were kind of just talking about this just before you came on, was that how, you know, when you remove body parts or you do things differently, or how you were talking about us being like closed in concrete. And then I'm also thinking about like the Wi-Fi stuff and do you know if that has an effect on our menstrual cycles? Is it sort of throwing us out of whack, or is it?
Everything is throwing us out of whack. Right. Absolutely. That's why focusing on healing the brain is so crucial. Our nervous system has not had a chance to catch up with the constant bombardment of sounds and vibrations that we can sense, and sounds and vibrations that we can't sense, like the electromagnetic frequencies, EMF, excuse me. You know, and so and I've done tons of research on this. I have 30 years of research into this book, and then the last years being a part of an addiction recovery program that focuses on healing the brain from alcohol and drugs using neuronutrients and neurofeedback therapy has just really opened my eyes to how integral healing the brain is. The brain is the motherboard. Yeah. And so we really need to start paying attention to that. So when you're feeling this depression and anxiety, when your hormones are dropping, you're falling off that 40-foot ledge, but it doesn't have to be that way. And that's what I have been working with women on, and I am going to take a moment and do a little plug here, because this is really important. In the last year, I've become aware of a company in Canada called True Hope, and it's truehope.com. I invite everybody to go to that website. And they have developed a nutritional supplement for bipolar disorder. And they have now, in 11 years, gotten over 90,000 people off their bipolar medications.
Wow.
What is bipolar disorder? Bipolar disorder is a very severe form of hormone imbalance. You're manic, your hormones are rising, manic, your hormones drop, you're depressed. Gotcha. Hormone imbalance. Okay? We've just made these things into a disease.
Oh, wow.
With their own medications. All right? All right, I posted another article on my blog, holyhormones.com, about 300 diseases attached to hypothyroidism. The root cause, people, is hormone imbalance, all right, and the brain not getting enough nutrition, a breakdown in the NEI super system, and yet we have classified all of the manifestations of these things as their own illness and come up with their own drugs. Farmers making a lot of money off our pelvic gold mines. They're making a lot of money off our bodies, and men's bodies too, for that matter, all right? But the root cause is hormone imbalance and undernutrition of the brain. It's as simple as that. Now, that's bringing women's intuition back into medicine. We were the initial healers. We just got raped and robbed, and it was taken away from us because we did not have the right to an education, and they developed universities for men only. And that's why history is so important, and her story is even more important. We got 50% of the population wandering around out there without a sense of their history.
Right.
of the contributions that women have made. And I'm developing a curriculum for this program for sex-trafficked girls, and I'm developing this curriculum called My Body, My Power. And an integral part of it, essential part of it, is teaching them about their history.
Yeah.
What contributions, Latina, Hispanic,
Yeah.
white women, African American women, and I go into showing all of those women and what they have done and contributions they have made.
I was saying you're right on about that, because taking away someone's history is definitely a way to disempower them. I mean, look at even us today as a country. People aren't aware of a lot of the contributions and things that, or just people aren't aware of our history as a nation. I think that's one of the reasons why we're kept ignorant and why a lot of people don't have passion about a lot of the things that are going on, a lot of the negative things that are being taken away from us right now.
Yep, and I agree. Let's go back to this nutritional supplement. And this story is really fascinating, and I'm trying to watch the clock here. I'm not quite sure when we started and how much time we have left. Anthony Steffen developed this product called True Hope. His wife suffered from severe bipolar disorder. Her father had committed suicide. She had 9 children, and after 2 weeks on Prozac committed suicide.
Wow.
All right, so let's just stop there for a moment, because this story has so many interesting aspects. She already had genetic severe bipolar disorder in her family, so they were already hormonally whacked out. What does that mean? The synapses in the brain weren't communicating right. All right, there was a frontal lobe breakdown somewhere along the line. She had 9 kids, 9 frigging kids, and she did not replace the nutrients in her body after each and every pregnancy.
Jeez.
And anybody who's saying, well, I took a prenatal vitamin, that's a bunch of hogwash. There's no nutrients in prenatal vitamins. They're synthetic. They get stored, not absorbed. All right, now that I said that. So then she's nutritionally depleted, so now she's even more hormonally imbalanced, and 2 of her children were diagnosed with the same severe bipolar disorder. Autumn Stringham, she'd be a lovely woman for you to interview, by the way, and I can make that happen for you.
Yeah.
She wrote a book called A Promise of Hope, but Autumn Stringham, one of the kids, was checking herself in and out of psych units to protect her husband and her kids from herself and to protect herself from herself.
Wow.
And Autumn is also agrees with me that bipolar disorder is hormone imbalance. So Anthony Steffen, the father, who was told by doctors, you're just going to have to institutionalize your kids, put them on drugs and institutionalize, there's nothing else we can do for them, refused to accept that. He ran into this other man, and this other man said, wow, well, what your kids are going through sounds like pig ear tail chasing disease. And Anthony said, what? He said, yeah, I work in veterinary feed supply, and we give them this supplement, and not only does it calm the pig down, it calms down everyone else in the pen. Because certainly, even like with an addict or someone has bipolar disorder, there's an incredible ripple effect. All right, everyone is affected. Anyway, I won't go into that. So they spent 10 years taking this vet-grade supplement, making it into a human-grade supplement, and perfecting it, bought Health Canada, because Health Canada tried to shut them down, fought Health Canada and won, and now is having tremendous success, not only with bipolar, but depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, and even autism. And I will talk about autism. In January of this year, Teresa, my colleague at True Hope, started working with a 3-year-old boy who presented with 31 symptoms of autism. After 6 weeks on the supplement, after 8 weeks on the supplement, his symptoms decreased to 6.
Wow.
Or 7.
Wow.
And he became a functioning child. Now, wouldn't this really be something if women just dug in our heels and said, no more drugs, we want nutrients?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you're talking about autism. I have an autistic child, and, it starts in the womb. It starts before you get pregnant. your health situation, because what you're describing about the brain and not having the minerals and the nutrients, I mean, that's exactly what we're dealing with my son, not having enough of that getting to his brain, and we have to treat it with food, and we have to treat it with supplements and stuff. But even myself, like, I, can't say I lived the healthiest lifestyle before I got pregnant. I was...
Well, right. I mean, yeah, really, we just assumed that what we were being told to eat was good enough for us.
Right.
Just like everything else. Here, take this drug. Here, eat this food. Here, drink this drink. That'll kill you.
Right.
But this is the beauty, and I invite you to call their 800 number and talk to them. This is the beauty about this product, and two things I didn't know. One is the vitamins and the supplements that we take are not bioavailable. Most of us have severe digestive problems, whether we're aware of it or not. So, which means a lot of those supplements and nutritional benefits are being passed through our body. The True Hope supplement is processed over 4 days instead of 2 hours. And it's like getting your nutrients right off your plate, like we used to be able to do. The other thing, which I had no idea about, and this is their proprietary formula, this is what makes this product so special, is that their vitamins and minerals, and especially the minerals, are in synchronistic ratio with each other. Now, when we think, oh my God, I don't have enough D, or vitamin C, I need more vitamin C, or if I take more zinc, I'll that will help with my PMS symptoms. Wrong. The vitamin industry has scammed us as much as the pharma industry. And here's why. In order for zinc to be effective, it has to be in perfect ratio with copper.
Oh, wow. Now, who takes copper?
And who takes copper anyway? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you get copper from?
Yeah.
And, of course, our table salt is killing us, and the only other way you can get minerals is from Himalayan salt or anything that's from the earth.
Right.
There's a red kosher salt. I can't remember the name of it. But even still, those minerals aren't in balance with each other like this True Hope product is, and that's the magic formula for unlocking the brain and healing the brain. And it's really incredible work. These folks they're so dedicated and so integral, and I can also get you an interview with Anthony Stephan, the owner of the company, if you'd like, April. Yeah. But anyway, so we talked about that. So we're using it for hormone imbalance. It's now and I hate these words, but I'm going to tell you anyway. It's an MLM, multi-level marketing company. Why? Because you don't have to have bipolar disorder if you want to optimize your brain functioning. But here's the real kicker is that one of the senior editors from WebMD sits on their honorary scientific advisory board. So it's the real deal. And it's being recognized by the medical world slowly but surely. And so we're calling this Women Helping Women Thrive.
Wow. That's good, but then you can use it for, it sounds like it could be for men, it could be for, I mean, do they have different types?
Well, and women are the portal to men and children. You get to the women, you get them feeling well first, and you're going to turn around and say, honey, try this. I know of a woman who's she's taking the capsule apart and putting the ingredients in her kids' foods. And she's doing the same thing with her husband because he doesn't like supplements. She's mixing up enough food. You know what? And they're all feeling better, and they're all starting to get along. And that's another piece of my work, and a big concern of mine, too, is that a lot of reason why we don't like ourselves as women is because of our hormones, because they're so whacked out we can't trust each other or trust ourselves. But the other thing is I really think it's hormones that are disrupting family relationships. Because you get
the high divorce rate and people breaking up all the time, and So the destroying the family unit. I mean, I'm not saying like the nuclear family, like it has to be that way, but when it seems like it's just so much more common. And in our community, in the autism community, we have a really high separation rate, which is really sad because it takes so many families.
Sure. Autism puts a lot of stress on a family.
Right. And then, but then if we're also probably the entire family is nutritionally deficient, and that's why we have autistic children. And
that's a really good point. And again, I invite you to call True Hope. For people that have medical issues, True Hope is where you want to go. For people that do not have medical issues, you can buy off this MLM, all right, and it doesn't cost as much as it would through True Hope. But both companies have micronutrient support services, and they have trained professionals that will help wean/titrate you off your psychotropic meds.
Right. Well, I don't have any of those, but
Yep.
I'm like, yeah.
I just want to say that are on meds, that don't want to be on meds, they have these professionals
Right.
in place. So as you're nutrating your body and you're feeling your energy levels going up, it's going to interfere with the medication, which of course is affecting your brain, right?
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a crossover point, and so then they start tapering you off your medication so that you are just getting the nutrients you need and no longer the drugs that are messing with your head.
Right.
You know, this is so funny. You know, how long have we heard it's all in your head?
Right.
Well, it turns out it is all in our head. Not in the condescending way that doctors and psychiatrists have tried to tell us, oh, it's all in your head.
Like we're making it up, yeah.
In our head. Right.
Yeah.
We're not getting nutrients to the brain, and that's the difference here.
Wow. It's just so amazing how we've gotten so far off track, but you're talking about the circadian rhythms and how all this knowledge was, I mean, it was just well known, and then now we're listening to these doctors and these white coats that just don't know anything about nutrition.
And we're just chopping off our breath before we have cancer and stuff now, you know.
Right, and speaking of that, back to that, we were talking about that before you came on. Virstyne and I were saying how it just seems that when the whole Angelina Jolie thing and she chopped off her breast, you know, it just seems so like it's just going to throw your body out of balance, and which might even increase your risk of having disease. And you know,
that's a brilliant point, April.
Oh, well, thank you. And so, what do you think about that? You probably know.
Well, I just, you know, and again, you have to read the history of gynecology. Gynecology is nothing more than the manipulation and intervention of a natural cycle. You don't see men going around having their body parts cut off, do you?
No.
No, you don't. You don't see them having, you know, preemptively having their testicles taken off because they might have particular
I mean,
cancer.
in very rare cases does a man has a cancer that has to happen.
Right.
However, it's becoming very normal. Well, hysterectomies are like the #1 surgery for women in the country. Why? Because they're endocrine whacked out, and they believe the doctors when they say, well, you don't need it. And they say, I'm done with it, take it out. Well, that interrupts the endocrine rhythm in the body, and that is going to throw everything else off. And so, you know, so then you're going to be developing some cancers, right? I mean, it's not rocket science, people. You don't have to go to medical school to even think in terms of common sense. So now all of our uteruses are taken out. So now they're going after our breasts.
Right.
And in the meantime, we've got millions of women on steroids that are affecting our brains called birth control.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, really, what else is there to really deflower a woman, dehumanize, defeminize a woman, but her uterus, her breasts, and her brain?
And so, how do people see this as a positive thing? I mean, it's so mainstream. Everyone's saying, "Oh, she's so brave. She took care of herself before she got sick." And I'm going, that seems like I feel like I'm living in, you know, the land of the
Do you really want to know what that statement says?
What?
The most beautiful woman in the world has chopped off her breasts.
Yeah.
And it is an example of extremism patriarchy. It sends such a bad message in so many different ways. Now, for women who have had to have mastectomies, my hat goes off to all of you. It takes a lot of courage to have to do that and to endure that. And most women do not have the money for the reconstructive surgery, all right, to get their boobs back.
But you know what, Leslie, I want to say, too, it's just funny, too, that she had the mastectomy, but then she had implants put on, thus increasing her chances, I would think, again, or even more. It's like you know, it just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, I just had to say that.
It doesn't make sense, absolutely, because now she's adding more chemicals to her body. But that is, I mean, men just want to control women's bodies. They do that through rape and violence and sex trafficking And they do that through the field of gynecology. Gynecology started in a shed in the ghettos in New York City. A woman wrote about it, and let me see if her name will come to mind. Anyway, experimentation. This doctor was cutting indigent and black women open.
Yeah.
And experimenting with their bodies.
I believe it.
I
believe it though, because that's kind of, that's the medical history. I mean, we're so barbaric at this point. I'm like going, we're just cutting off pieces, and it seems like we made more sense when we were bloodletting with leeches, Now it doesn't make any sense at all. It's just cutting off body parts that aren't even diseased. I mean, it's just weird.
And getting attacked if you criticize people for doing that.
Right.
And that's even more disturbing. Like sorry, go on, Leslie.
No, I think you guys are covering it. You women are covering it really, really well. I mean, we need to wake up. We need to bring women's wisdom and intuition back into our lives. And it's not about cutting off body parts. But the message that Angelina Jolie sends is a victory for the patriarchy. It's total patriarchal control of the most beautiful woman in the world.
Wow.
I mean, wouldn't it have been something if she stood up and, like my friend Catherine in the United Kingdom, who was misdiagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer after getting an infection from a mammogram, and now does not have any cancer in her body at all. Wouldn't it have been wonderful through detoxing and nutrition? And wouldn't it have been wonderful if Angelina Jolie had stood up as a woman and said, I'm going to heal myself?
Yeah. Right. And I mean, who knows what she's doing in her lifestyle.
Her ovaries out. Oh, I forgot the ovaries. That's the last one. We got the brain, the boobs, the ovaries, and the uterus. All right? What else makes a woman a woman?
Wow.
Well, maybe she was, who knows, maybe she was frightened into it. Now people are using medical, terrorism to frighten women into...
Feist was just on Dr. Rima's show with me earlier this morning. Brittany Feist was frightened into getting the Gardasil vaccine, even though she and her mother talked about it and decided not to get her vaccinated. But Brittany was at college, and the doctor said to her, you could walk down the hallway and get HPV from someone, or you could have a lab experiment and get HPV. And since Brittany already had a lab experiment, she got frightened and got the HPV vaccine. And now she is totally disabled.
Wow.
Oh, God.
Right. I mean, that's what they use, fear-mongering. I mean, that's how I ended up vaccinating my son, out of fear, because they tell you, well, you're putting your child at risk of getting the disease and the disease.
Exactly. Right.
And you have nothing to worry about with the vaccine. That's really, really rare and very uncommon that anyone has a reaction. And so you're thinking, well, we're fine, we're healthy, not really realizing, all the things that you're saying. I mean, that I wasn't as healthy as I thought I was, because I hadn't really been living an extremely healthy lifestyle. And I had been on birth control before, and I had done these things before that had sort of set myself up to have an unhealthy pregnancy. And then, my child being nutritionally deficient and then vaccinated, and then he regressed. And so it's, just 1, 2, 3, and it was fear. And even after it happened, then they even tried to, it's all in your head, which it is, but not in the way that they were saying it.
Exactly. Right. And the thing is, if the brain never ages and if the brain can heal itself, it's all reversible. It just depends on how deep the cycle goes. And 30 years ago when I started out doing this, at least it was 30 years ago, and I was reading books on macrobiotics. And I came across a chart which I had developed for my workshops just imagine, folks, a human or a woman just standing and she's, just a model outline of a body. And in her head is the beginning of a cycle that progresses down deeper and deeper into the body. So what is the first thing that happens when you, before you even get a cold, before that runny nose happens?
You get headache, fatigue,
fatigue and sort of overwhelm, kind of like depression. You don't like your life. I can't keep up. That's the first indicator of imbalance. And lack of nutrition to the brain. And then the next one is blood disease. because our hormones are running through a toxic bloodstream. The nutrients aren't getting to where they need in the body. The hormones are the body's messengers. So the whole messaging system gets messed up. What happens then? Well, that's autoimmune disease. But then you start off with almost like a mental fatigue, as you said, and illness, depression, anxiety, that if that keeps going on and keeps cycling down, you get into the autoimmune, and then you get into deeper and deeper issues. And what happens is, at the very bottom of it, not only are you very sick physically, but you are very disconnected from yourself and from everyone else because you've fallen down the rabbit hole of your brain. And that is interpreted as addiction and narcissism. Narcissism is alive and well in our society.
I'd say it's sort of like the...
And psychopaths, that's the other thing I wanted to throw in there. Right.
Well, narcissism, it's interesting that you bring that up because it's sort of like that's what the American culture kind of is based on. We're all, it's sort of everybody kind of for themselves. We all identify ourselves with things that we have or things that we do, but not really who we are. And so it's this sort of like narcissism within yourself kind of thing. So it just makes perfect sense if you go back to that. We're all just nutritionally deficient because look at what we're eating, look at what we're breathing, look at what, is in our water, and there's nothing of any value.
And for women who are actually thinking of getting pregnant, they really need to be not only nutrating, but they need to be detoxing.
Yeah.
Over 300 chemicals and heavy metals, including BPA, which is an estrogen mimicker, has been found in the umbilical cord. I'm just posting an article on my blog, which will appear later on this week, about a 2-year-old Chinese girl being treated for menstruation.
What? 2-year-old? You just said 2-year-old.
Yep, I did.
Wow. Oh, my God.
She has breast buds, she has pubic hair, and she's menstruating. Now, how do you treat a 2-year-old for menstruation other than put her on synthetic hormones?
Oh, my goodness.
Jesus.
And that's
I did this, I always try and find a picture to post with my articles. And so this condition is known as precocious puberty, and I invite all of you to go to Google Images, and type in precocious puberty. And you're going to see tons of medical pictures.
Wow.
Of children, little girls with breasts, boys with fully developed penises in their infancy. It's very disturbing.
I've heard of
the genome disruption.
I've heard of a 5-year-old. I remember before I started, I was about 10, and I remember there was a girl that was 5, and her mother was talking to my mom and talking about like how she was menstruating at 5. But 2, and as a teacher, I see these kids that are like, I don't know, 8, developing at like 8. Like they already have like little breasts, you know?
Yep.
So it's just that
estrogen mimickers. What happens is this. It's as simple as this. All the estrogen that our mothers took in their birth control, now our grandmothers took in their birth control, and maybe for some great-grandmothers took in their birth control. The pill's been on the market since the 60s, so how many generations is that? All of that estrogen has been built up in the body and passed in utero.
Well, plus, what did you say? It's like you said, the BPAs and also just the hormones that's putting in
and then you have all of that as well. Yes.
Right?
And all of that as well. So really, detoxing and nutrating the brain, I mean, I hate to be hawking products, but I'll tell you what, I've done my research. In April, you would not have me on your radio show if you knew I didn't do my research.
No.
And actually, what I need to tell you is that there are 20 independent published studies on this True Hope product. Independent. We know how important independent studies are, right? Instead of the studies on Gardasil HPV vaccine funded by Merck.
Right.
Funded by the very pharmaceutical company that's manufacturing the damn thing.
Oh, but what's the problem with that, Leslie? That's Dr. Paul Offit would say. Well, how else would they get done?
Yeah, how else would it get done? Let me tell you something else. I can't remember if I dropped this little tidbit on you last time I was on your show either. ACOG, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, changed their guidelines recently for birth control recommendations for teens. the pill is out because of human error. Well, the pill is out because they're giving it to girls at an earlier and earlier age who are not mature enough to remember to take the pill. So they're recommending implants, synthetic implants, synthetic IUDs, synthetic hormone implants, IUDs, and Depo, though I think Depo's on the way out because it's caused so many problems. So they mentioned this an implant by name. They said Implanon. And I went, really? Now that's interesting. They don't mention a synthetic IUD, synthetic hormone IUD by name.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder who makes Implanon, methinks to myself. Well, let's just do a little Google search, and guess who comes up, April?
Merck?
Merck.
Merck. Oh, big surprise. Yeah, Merck.
This is how unethical and just dirty this is. They are manufacturing a synthetic hormone implant and giving it to a population of girls, demographic of girls, who are too young to advocate condom use for themselves to prevent STDs. And then they're standing on the other side of the fence with their STD vaccine. Now, really? Is that ethical? Is that moral?
No.
I have a hard time with that. I just found out from a colleague of mine, a professional colleague of mine, his billing administrator's daughter had the Gardasil vaccine 6 years ago.
Uh-huh.
She's now 33, and she has a very aggressive form of cervical dysplasia.
Ugh.
And she's had to have a colposcopy and a leaf procedure, and she might even lose her cervix.
Oh, Leslie. You know, there was this article recently, our friend Sarah, who we have on the show a lot, who was vaccine damaged by the Gardasil vaccine, had posted it about this new version that they're going to use genetically engineered insect to cultivate. I mean, what is like when we're talking about Gardasil, like how they're using these animals, these foreign DNAs, like how does that play into the hormonal imbalance? Like, is that part of it, or is it just the adjuvants? Or?
Can you say that again? What was your question?
Like the foreign DNA, like the thing that they're using now, they're going to start using these genetically engineered insects to culture.
Oh, yeah.
Right, to culture the virus or whatever inside these genetically engineered insects. So, just wondering, like, I don't think anything good could come of that. That sounds like a cocktail for something really bad.
Yeah, it is really, really bad. And here's the deal. And another reason why it's so important to detox, another reason why it's so important to nutrate. Dr. Hannon Polanski was on my show, and he is the director of the Center for the Biology of Chronic Disease. Mm-hmm. He is also speaking out about Gardasil. Now, what is happening is that we're getting these recombinant DNAs in our bodies, either through the manufacturing process of biologic medicines and vaccines, or with these foreign DNAs that they're putting in our bodies.
Yeah.
There has been no study done on what happens when a recombinant DNA, which is a classified biohazard, or a foreign DNA, enters a cell with our normal DNA. That study has not yet been done.
Right.
So, and nobody knows how to get rid of it once it's in the body.
Right.
So some of these detox products out there keep viruses and things like this from replicating.
Mm.
All right. They affect the template, the viral template, so they can't replicate in the body. The other thing that's really important is that what Dr. Polanski said is that we've been taught that viruses are dangerous when they come out to play.
Mm.
All right? Like a herpes outbreak.
Right.
Or when we get a sore throat or a runny nose or a sinus infection. All right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said that's not true. Viruses are much more dangerous when they are dormant in the body.
Mm.
Why?
Yeah.
Because viruses are alive. And even though they're laying low in our body, they are still feeding off every single cell in our body and starving our cells cells to death.
Wow.
We are sucking out nutrition. So if we're not replacing that nutrition at a cellular level, we're in big trouble. And that's why we get sick.
Right. Right. So we talked about this a little bit before the show started, and I mentioned that it was in the news today that Michael Douglas he claims that his oral sex caused him to contract HPV, and that's what caused his cancer. I guess he had oral cancer. So does HPV, does it cause cancer? I mean, we've talked about this before, and
well, according to the National Cancer Institute, HPV hasn't been directly linked to cervical cancer. Anything can cause cancer. It's the imbalance and how long it goes, how long the imbalance goes, and then everything is added to it.
Talk about though too that he changed smoke, so you don't think the tars and all the chemicals in the
yes, of course,
all the chemicals in the cigarettes, not just the tobacco, all the adjuvants cause that
so
too.
I mean, pharma got to Angelina Jolie. They're getting to Michael Douglas.
Right.
That's all we're talking about here.
Right,
so
she was a smoker too. I think I heard that about Angelina Jolie as well, that she's also a chain smoker. But right, so these people are weakening their immune system because they're smoking all day, for whatever reason, and which addiction, as you mentioned, is a sign of a nutritional deficiency. So they're nutritionally deficient. They're making it worse by these toxins that they're putting into their body, and then they're blaming cancer on. Angelina Jolie is blaming it on having defective breasts.
Well, it's genome disruption,
right?
Like Dr. Rima talks about. We're disrupting the genes in our bodies with all these synthetics and chemicals. And yes, of course, it can be genetic, but there's a growing body of evidence that it can also be managed and treated, just like addiction. That it can be reversed with nutrition. I mean, it's going to get really exciting here, and it's the only way that we're going to save the future of the world is if we really start focusing on neuroscience and the brain and healing the brain so that the brain can function. All of these chemicals and things cross the blood-brain barrier. They break down the communication systems. That's what mental illness is. That's what psychosis is. That's what aggressive behavior is. Now, I call these things, to some extent, socially acceptable mental illness.
Yeah.
SAMI, S-A-M-I. We've become more tolerant of these types of behaviors, of depression, of anxiety, of emotional outbursts, of angry outbursts.
Oh, yeah, we can.
And we're kind of embracing them. All right?
Yeah.
And no, that's not right. In fact, what really, really rocked my world is listening to a neuroscience researcher speak on the brain and addiction, and after an hour-long webinar, he concludes his whole presentation with, well, let me put it this way. If everybody's neurotransmitters were balanced, we'd be a society filled with happy, loving, peaceful, compassionate, spiritual people. It rocked my world. And I stopped looking at people as, oh, you angry son of a SOB, or you've got bipolar disorder, or you've got depression, anxiety. And I look at people now, instead of labeling and judging and saying, you've got a bio and chemical imbalance in your brain, and we can work with this now. We've broken through the veil, all right? We've made up all these diseases. We've made massive amount of money. Pharma's made massive amount of money on all their medications, which continue to kill us. Now we can understand the root cause and get down to the root cause and start healing instead of medicating. And that's the crossroads that we're at.
Yeah, because then we know that there's epigenetics. So even when you're talking about genetics, it's not the end. It's not the end of the road, as we've been taught. So we know that there's something that environment changes your genetics, and you can do it either make it worse, and you get
cancer. The end of the road is coming, and a nation is not defeated until the hearts of its women are on the ground.
All right.
That's the end of the road.
Yes. That's a great way to wrap up.
That's perfect. We came full circle.
Yes, it's come full circle. I always enjoyed speaking with both of you. Virstyne and April, really, thank you so very much for giving me the time. My book is Understanding Your Mind, Mood, and Hormone Cycle. It's on my website. You can download it as an ebook. It's also available on Amazon.com. And
give us your website again.
Holyhormones.com. That's holy with an H, as in sacred.
Fabulous. And when does your radio show air?
My radio show airs Monday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. on KRFC FM Fort Collins. I've got a great announcement for all of you, and that True Hope is going to be my sponsor, and I am going to move my radio show from a local radio station over to Voice America, where we will be able to reach tens of thousands more people and educate more people about education and educate more people about nutrients and mental health. And it's taken me 5 years to find a sponsor that adheres with certainly my principles and ideals, and for me to be able to work with someone as well. And yes, I promote their product, but no, I'm not promoting their product because they're sponsoring me. I've been talking about True Hope for a whole year.
Wow.
And the work that they're doing and the changes in people's lives and the big change in my life since I've been on their product.
Wow. Well, that's good testimony, and I do trust that anything that Leslie puts her stamp on is good, because just from following you for a while, I know that you're very sincere, and everything is comes out of you is the truth. So and from your years of experience and research. So thank you so much, Leslie. We love having you on. And
thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome. This time just flew right by. So Virstyne and I are going to take a short break, and when we get back, we're going to wrap up the show. But we love having Leslie. We'll definitely bring you back on again sometime, and thank you for being on the show.
And thank you. Have a blessed day.
You too.
Hello, I wanted to say that I love the conspiracy realist t-shirts that you can get only online at ship.truthortease.com. I knew a conspiracy when I saw it. America is run by the CIA. Yes, the CIA. That's why you have to wear a conspiracy realist t-shirt all the time to let people know that you are not stupid. Go to ship.truthortease.com. Ship. Like to go shipping when you buy things at the grocery store. truthortease.com.
With food sensitivities and allergies can make it a difficult task of finding the right foods to eat. My son's severe dairy allergy has made him unable to eat even butter, which is why I buy the best, high-quality ghee from Pure Indian Foods.
Pure Indian Foods is a family-owned company spanning back 5 generations. Pure Indian Foods continues to make ghee the old-fashioned way in small batches with stainless steel equipment. This ghee is derived from non-homogenized milk from 100% organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised cows. Always served in glass bottles, never plastic, so there's no risk of BPA poisoning.
Pure Indian Foods has decided to keep their company small so as to maintain the tradition of high-quality products ranging from healthy and delicious Indian spices,
Ayurvedic medicinal teas, and of course their delicious ghees, which come in a variety of spiced flavors, like the new digestive ghee for better digestive health.
And my personal favorite, their cultured ghee, is as delicious as it is good for you. Even my son with severe allergies can eat it, and he loves the taste. Be sure to check out Pure Indian Foods at pureindianfoods.com, the best little online store for tasty, healthy living.
That's pureindianfoods.com.
Welcome back to
I was on holiday with Sir Laurence Olivier. We had decided that 9/11 was an intelligence operation. We'd all known about JFK. He had so many mistresses. The CIA shot him. Castro could never have done it. It was clear. We had become realists, conspiracy realists. How would we let everyone know was the question. We decided to buy T-shirts that told the contents of our hearts and minds to the world. We went to shop.truthortease.com. Even though the internet hadn't been invented at the time, we went to shop.truthortease.com. There we purchased Conspiracy Realist T-shirts, one of a kind, sold only at shop.truthortease.com. 100% cotton in men's and women's fitted sizes. I won't tell you which one I'm wearing.
Welcome back to Truth or Talk. I'm April Bowden.
And I'm Virstyne Henry.
We just talked to Leslie Carol Botha, She's great, isn't she?
Yeah, she's really inspiring.
I know. I love talking to Leslie. What did you think about the interview? I liked what she was saying about the mother and being kind of like the central nervous system of the home, and that was all really interesting stuff, didn't you think?
Yeah, it was, and I think that we've kind of lost that concept, about women and our role in society, and she definitely brings it back to square one.
Yeah.
I think we opened with that quote about the hearts of like a nation is not defeated until the hearts of their women are on the ground, but that's very true. And I think, where we're going in today's society, women have been totally, men too, we mainly talked about women, but I think men have also been emasculated and women have been defeminized.
Yeah.
And that's basically, jacks up our society.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, it causes it to be unstable, and that's another form of divide and conquer. We talk about like the Illuminati or the elite or whoever you want to call them that are, trying to take complete control over us and cause us harm. But that's one way. That's just another little sliver that they've added, in our psyches and our souls is divide us through sex. As well as race and religion and all this stuff. But we say, we talk more about sex and women in particular.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
that's it's just another way, to divide us. But I think once we come back to that, once we become strong in that aspect, there's no stopping us, And I would like to do a show about men too.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe we have to show because you've done a lot of stuff, and I think that a lot of people, a lot of feminists, from my point of view, too, think in order for women to come back into full power, that men have to be emasculated, and that's not true.
Right.
There needs to be a balance, but women are just women are the nucleus. I don't know. I mean, I agree with that, but at the same time, I don't want to discount men.
Right.
I think that we both need each other to survive.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say, men are nothing without women. I think it goes both ways.
Yeah.
So, but it's really great to see a very strong, empowered woman.
Yeah.
To have somebody like that in your presence, to know that there are women that are out there like that. It's great because, it's not really until I've gotten older that I've come across women like that. A lot of women are very insecure, very controlling. Not really pleasurable to be around. So when people like you, Joni, Leslie, who else to be? It was Dr. Rima. It's wonderful and inspiring to be around women like that.
And of course, our good friend Sarah, who was with us at the top of the show. We talked to Sarah during the intro about the Gardasil vaccine, and of course, she has Gardasil damage, but we talked about that. It's the first genetically. She sent this to me, and I couldn't. I guess it was like, I could believe it, but then I couldn't believe it. It was so gross. The first genetically engineered vaccine, and it's just weird. And then, of course, Leslie is one of the predominant experts on the Gardasil vaccine because Leslie's just an expert on women's health in general. So that was something that she had interest in, and that's what I find really interesting about Leslie too. Is that a lot of the feminist movement, they'll support things like the HPV vaccine, or they'll support birth control. And Leslie brings up the fact that, okay, but that's to your own detriment because you don't really know what you're putting into your body. And then once you're sick and you're out of whack and you have this hormonal balance and nutritional deficiencies and all these things that are caused by the vaccine, that are caused by the birth control, then you're actually ineffective. And so
That's total Hegelian dialectic, right? By the way, it's like problem, reaction, solution. So it's like women want to have sex and or I guess the problem is women wanting to be sexually free as men to do what they want, and then they come up with this solution, or there's a reaction. People are, women are outraged that they don't have the same rights as men in that regard, and then, we have this, pill that will allow you to have freedom, and you're like, sweet,
Yeah,
you can fuck all day, fuck all night, and then, now it causes you reproductive problems and all kinds of issues.
Right, or we have this vaccine that now you can have sex and not have to worry about cervical cancer. Because remember here in California when they had that bill, it was all about like, oh, well, we're going to give this to the children who, I mean, they're going to be doing it anyway. They're going to be having sex when they're 14 anyway, so we better protect them. You know, and that's just a gross attitude for one, but two, it's like these people don't even realize what they're injecting these kids with. And they're basically causing them problems either immediately after they get vaccinated, or if not immediately, then down the road. And so it's really nice to be around strong, powerful women like Sarah and Leslie. I always love talking about both of them. And then, Leslie just is a crack up. She's just such a strong but she's really a good interview every time. She always comes on, and we're never like at a dull moment with her, so that's always great. Yeah. And Sarah,
and I always learn so much.
Me too.
I always learn so much from Sarah too. Young. She's very young. It's rare that I learn from somebody that young.
Yeah.
But,
she's an old soul.
Yeah, definitely.
She's definitely an old soul because I know it's really rare that there's somebody who's so much younger than me. I mean, she could be my daughter. I'm like 19 years older than her, but she's so. But I admire her. Like I look up to her, and that's really. I mean, I can't think of anybody her age that I think of like that, or very few anyway. There's maybe a couple that are younger than me that I kind of look up to, but she's definitely somebody I look up to, and I admire her strength and her ability to stay light and have a sense of humor and a good head on her shoulders through all that she's had to endure. So we love Sarah, and we love Leslie, and she's always fantastic, and welcome on the show anytime. So, I guess we're just about done here. So with that said, we welcome everyone to check out our new website. We've got it all up and running, truthertalk.com.
Yes.
And check
no
us
more
out
3 websites. How many do we have? I think we have like 3.
Yeah, we have 3 websites, and now we've consolidated it to one. So it's truthertalk.com, or Virstyne did. She did a great job. And so please check it out. Check us out on Facebook, Truth or Talk. And until next time, peace, truth, and love.
Peace, truth, and love.
Bye-bye.